Hi y'all, I'm Carrie the One. I'm your dad's favorite drag queen, and today we're talking about my eyeshadow palettes. Holy cow. Ooh. If you're new here, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I make content centered around gaming, drag and makeup, and a little social justice and other variety content sprinkled in there too. If you haven't already, I'd love it if you'd take a moment to like this video, leave a comment letting me know how you found my channel, and of course, subscribe. I post every week, and I'd love to see your name in the comments next week. Special shout out to Andy and the rest of the folks in my members only community, the Carriolas, for giving me the idea to make this video. The Carriolas is an exclusive community for folks who want all the behind the scenes action, access to my YouTube videos before anybody else gets it, and even a discount on Carrie merch. Check out the link in the description below if you're interested in learning more. So this week I wanted to try something a little bit different. I've been making a lot of gaming content lately, and I've been really itching to get more into the kind of drag and makeup side of what I do. And so we're gonna go through some of my eyeshadow palettes and talk about which ones do I use the most. I don't really have any that I don't like, so if you're here for like tea or to see me talk shit about a brand, I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen here probably. Well, that's not true. But so we'll just talk about what are some of the palettes that I use the most. What are some of the ones that I maybe have? I see 2, 3, 4 that I have never even used, and I've had them for a very long time. And then some of my favorites along the way as well. So just kind of a little chit chat. I'm not going to be getting into drag or putting any makeup on. I live in Maine, but it's literally like 96 degrees right now, and no one should have to do that. So we're gonna just chill out, go through some of my palettes, and yeah, see what happens. So stay tuned. All right, so I keep everything in these like fabric kind of drawer things, and then these just slide like into the little shelf. So I'm luckily, I think, a lot more organized than maybe a lot of other drag queens are. I also don't have tons and tons of makeup, so I think I'm lucky in the sense that, like, when I say I'm going through my palettes, I probably have like 30, which is a lot. It's more than like the average makeup user, I understand. But, you see like all these beauty gurus on YouTube and they have like wall-to-wall IKEA shelving behind them, and it's just full of products that they've gotten for free but have never touched. So, with the exception of I've got 2 or 3 palettes here that I don't think I've ever used. I've used all of these. Mostly more than once. Because she's relatable. Right, Goose?
Hello.
A ringing endorsement. Yes, sir. Hi. I love him. Okay, so I'm not necessarily going to have a whole lot to say about every single palette. But some of them do, like, I've got some memories. Like this first one I've got right here. And I understand she's kind of canceled. And I don't think I would probably buy anything from her brand now. But this is one of the first eyeshadow palettes I ever bought. And it's the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe one. This is volume 2, the second one. And you can, I don't know if you can see on camera. It's literally covered in like pink and orange fingerprints. This was my jam for so long. I was all about this. Not any of like the top 2 rows except for the yellow. Never touched it. That pink that I've very clearly hit pan on was everything to me. I built my entire kind of branding actually around basically that pink. I also used the orange right above it a lot. Some of these purples down in the corner. Yeah, I was all about this palette when I first got it, which is why I haven't been able to throw it away. So even though I don't use it really that much anymore, there's like a sentimental attachment here that I will not apologize for. But like I said, I probably wouldn't buy anything from her. I know she's got her own brand now. Miss me with that. I also love this one. This is the Bat Me Cosmetics Box of Donuts palette. I'm not even sure if they still have this or they might have repackaged it. I know they went through and kind of rebranded a lot of I have probably still 20 sets of lashes from them that I know they went through and kind of relaunched. I love this palette. I love this. I think it's a perfect palette for Pride. And so Bat Me is owned by a black trans woman named Jayla Rocks. And like I said, they also have really, really good lashes. So I really love this palette. Again, I don't reach for it a whole lot. I don't do a ton of, and this is going to be a theme. You're going to see a lot of these palettes where there are lots of different colors. And I'm going to say, I don't use this a whole lot because a lot of my eye looks are very either monochromatic or I'll pick 2 colors. Goose is very interested. Just kidding. No, he's not. Oh. Okay. Take notes, Goose. I tend to pick like 1 or 2 colors and feature those in my eye looks. So whenever I get a palette like this that has so many different colors, I tend to get a little bit overwhelmed. And then I end up not using it at all because I don't know. I'm not always great at picking colors that don't look like they would go together, but making it work together. So the more colors that I put on my eye, the less likely it's going to look well. So I tend to keep it to like very simple color palettes. And so palettes like this intimidate me, but I want to do better. I want to get better, and I want to start practicing using more colors. I have a couple palettes in here too from a little indie brand that you may or may not have heard of. They're very niche. It's called Gamer Glam Cosmetics. And they cater to gamers in particular. So unless you are someone who plays a lot of games, or if you're part of kind of like the Twitch streamer like community, you might not have heard of this brand, but it's actually really cool. And I've used these palettes a lot, not so much lately, but this one in particular, I don't know if you can see, like the front is starting to peel off of it from how much I've used it. This is the Game Over Player 1 palette, which is, I think, a really great Pride palette as well. One of pretty much every color that you could need. It's got a matte black and a shimmer black. It's got a white, all kinds of fun little colors in here. There's some shimmers. There's a green, a teal, and this kind of magenta color, and then this dark, sort of deep purple, almost brown shimmer in here as well. So I think this is a great palette if you're someone who does like a sweeps one color on your lid and that's like your daily go-to look. This would be a really fun one to take traveling because you've got pretty much any color you could need. And I love when a palette has a white and a black too. Black and white are always, I think, a staple, especially if you're doing drag, because it can help you give a little more dimension to your look, but even if you're just a human who wears makeup. So this is a super fun palette, and again, it's an indie brand, black-owned brand, super fun palette. And this was the first one I got. This was my introduction to Gamer Glam Cosmetics. This is the Desert Warrior palette, the Desert Warrior, and I think this one's so fun just because it's shaped like a controller, first off. It is a kind of more neutral palette. It's got a cute little mirror in here as well. So it's, again, kind of neutrals, kind of dusty, very kind of warm toned. Lots of different finishes. We've got mattes, we've got shimmers, we've got glitters in here. But what I really like about this palette in particular is that this big black circle in the middle is actually a sponge, and it's a color eraser. So the idea is that if you're using, say, this palette for, this whole palette for a look, you're going to use maybe 3 or 4 different shades here. The idea is that you should be able to use one brush, dip into whatever your first color is, and then use this eraser to get all the loose product off of it so that you can then use your brush and dip into the next product and not kind of cross-contaminate the colors or end up with a darker look because you have some of the last color on your brush still. So I think that's super, super cool, very innovative. I don't see this really anywhere else, and I think it's a really fun idea. I think for as many people who are in the market for products that they can take with them on the go, having something like this is super helpful. Obviously, it doesn't replace like washing your brushes, but in between washes, this is a really great way to keep yourself from using 7 different brushes when one brush would do, just if you're able to get all the product off. So kudos to you, Gamer Glam Cosmetics. This is a super fun little palette, and what a cool idea to have that color eraser in the middle. Yes. All right, so let's start with
the Sleighs.
Let's start on a high note. Let's talk about some of my favorite palettes. And so I didn't really have any like set criteria for this other than like the palettes that get me the most excited to use them. So that's not like a concrete measurement. I don't have like a rubric or a score that I can give you for these. I just know that there's some palettes that when I look at them or pick them up, I'm excited to do something with them. And the first one I'm going to show you, the Pretty Funny palette from Bomo Beauty, which is from Bob the Drag Queen and Monet Exchange. If you haven't seen this palette, it's actually kind of a fun concept. So it looks really small, but it actually, so we have the pretty side, the funny side, and it actually kind of folds in half like a little wallet. So it's fun in that like it's 2 different stories. So there's one half, the pretty side is Monet's side, and we see it's 4 little shades here: Dime, Flirt, Stunner, and Blackout. Nope, Knockout. I can read, I promise. I don't really use this side quite so much. Again, as a lot of shimmers, although I have used the black shimmer Knockout, and it is really, really pretty. It's a subtle shimmer, so it doesn't look like giant chunks of glitter. So if you want something that just gives you a little bit of kind of dimension and a little hint of sparkle, perfect. I use the funny side all the time. One of my favorite looks that I've done in the last year or so was using nothing but this side on my eye. And it's because of this blue. There's a blue and a gold in here that I would buy in bulk. So this blue up in the corner, it's called Setup. And then the gold shade over here, which is called Punchline. Stunning. And so much pigment. You can really pack these on and get tons and tons of payoff. You can tell these were designed by people who know what they're talking about and who know what good high pigment makeup looks like. So super excited about those two shades. There's a matte black here at the bottom that's called Dark Humor. And then there's a deep blue kind of navy glitter shimmer shade called Heckler. I just get so excited to use these colors because I know they're going to perform well. I know they're going to be gorgeous. This gold on top of pretty much any color is a winner. If you don't use any of the other shades and just use the gold, do it. It's a slay. It's a total slay. Bomo Beauty, you did that. And again, I can't wait to see. I hope, because I know there have been a few queens that have like launched a product or a couple products and then it kind of fizzled out. I hope that's not what happens here because I'm so excited to see what these two come up with next. All right, so the next one of my Sleighs is actually two palettes, but they're from the same brand and they're like 1 and 2. And I use these for more than just eyeshadow, so I had to put them on this list. And they're both from Juvia's Place. It's the Warrior palette, and the Warrior 2 palette. These two palettes are probably the two that I use the most. Warrior 2 in particular, because it's got some really, first off, huge pans. I love it. You get all kinds of product in here. And this is actually the palette that I usually use to fill in my beard. So a lot of bearded performers and bearded dragsters or bearded folks who wear makeup will use like a cream product, either like a face paint or a hair gel that has a pigment to it, and that's how they color their beard. I don't. I prefer something, first off, that's not wet. I hate the idea of this all being wet, and I find that a lot of time a cream product never truly dries down all the way or doesn't set if I try to use powder to set it. And I hate how that feels, and then it starts to get on my clothes and my hands, and I just don't like that way, the way that feels. So I just use eyeshadow. And so what I do is I take a big, like a bronzer or a contour brush, a really dense one. I'll dip it into usually the black. You can see I use the shit out of this black. And I'll just rub it into my beard that way. And then when I use my setting spray, it just kind of locks everything in and it keeps it there. It doesn't transfer. It doesn't end up all over my clothes, especially since I'm using such a dark color. So I just love these. They're really, really high pigment. Juvia's Place is another brand that's founded and created by a black founder and designed specifically for folks with deeper skin. So these are shadows that have a lot of pigment to them. They have a lot of payoff. So I would say that if you're someone who's relatively new to makeup, proceed with caution with these because I think for a lot of us, when we first start in makeup, we dip in and go really hard with the brush and then we try to sweep it on the eye. If you do that with these, you're going to get the raccoon eye look very quickly, unless that's what you're going for. I would say take it easy with these, but they're also super affordable. So Juvia's Place is another brand just like Kimchi Chic where there's always a sale going on. I probably paid $10 for this palette, maybe 12. And it's well loved. There's black all over it. I've got black on my fingers because again, that's the shade in this palette. It's called Shawata. I use it all the time. If I've got my beard filled in, it is either this palette or this palette that I've used 99% of the time. And then the last of the Sleighs that we're going to talk about today it's 4 different palettes, but again, they're all from the same brand and they're all the same kind of concept, just different colors. These Beauty Bay palettes, baby, these are the ones. So there's 4 of them here and I maybe paid $14, $15 for them. I got them on sale, I'm sure of it. They took a little bit longer to get here because these ship from the UK. Worth it. So these are each 16 color or 16 pan palettes, and they each have sort of a different theme. So we have the Midnight palette, which is blues and some purple. I love this palette. You can tell I've used it a whole lot. Less so for the purples. I think I've got better options when it comes to purple, although I do like to use this dark purple shade. It's called Iris. I've used that to fill in my beard when I wanted like a purple beard look, and it works really, really well. Great pigment. I will say the Beauty Bay formula tends to be a little bit drier, and so there's a little bit more kind of fallout, but that's not a deal breaker for me. So I know some people really don't like fallout. Some people, it doesn't really bother them. It doesn't bother me that much. The green one here, earthy green shadows are really having a moment, I feel like, this summer. And it's really hard to find like a good palette with a lot of different green tones. And I think it's just really, really beautiful. There are a couple shimmers in here too that are a little bit more on the gold side. So if you're looking for something to kind of transition so you don't have like just green on your eye, there's some options to help with that too. There's a really fun kind of army green here at the bottom. This one's a little bit deeper. It's like an olive tone. It's called Eucalyptus. I just think this is a really beautiful palette. And again, lots of really fun. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these shades are mattes. So a little over half of the palette is mattes. So the next one is this one. It's the Berry palette. This is probably the one of the 4 that I have, the one I use the most. I again gravitate toward pink. I love pink. So there's lots of different shades of pink here. We've got like a really fun Barbie pink. We've got some lighter pinks. This one's almost a purple kind of plum color. Lots of really light transition shades. And then again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these shades are matte, while 6 of them are shimmers or metallic. So again, really, really fun palette. A really, I think, fun way, especially for folks who are maybe newer to makeup or newer to being creative with their makeup. A really fun way to play with color while also not getting like off the rails with it is to just use these palettes. This gives you could pair these shades together in pretty much any combination and it's going to look pretty good. And then this last one is the Fiery palette. It's this kind of orange. So lots of oranges and some kind of like warm toned neutrals. So I use this one probably the least out of the 4 of them. Again, I'm not really a huge like neutral person, but I do really love the shimmers in this one. And a lot of the shimmers in this palette pair with the mattes. So if you want a really quick, simple eye look, just like a wash of a matte shade on your lid, run it up into your crease, blend it out with something lighter, which you can find in this palette, and then take the corresponding shimmer and just put it right on the inner half of your eyelid. Beautiful, stunning, and super, super quick eye. All right, so let's get into these Neighs, the bottoms, the flops of the family. And again, a disclaimer that I don't really have any palettes that I don't like.
If I don't like something, I get rid of it.
Whether that be by throwing it away or gifting it to someone. Like, it's very rare that I keep something that I just don't enjoy. I'll usually try it at least twice, and then if I don't like it, it's time to get rid of it. So these are just, more than anything, I think these are just the palettes that I reach for the least. So again, there's 3 of them, but one of them, there's 4. So one of the 3, it's 4 palettes, but they're all, again, the same brand and the same kind of idea. So the first one I have is this little mini one. It's from Violet Voss. It's called the Wild Dahlia palette, and I have literally never used this. I bought this at Sephora. It was in, Sephora always gets me with the little like minis that they have by the checkout. I always end up buying something there, and that's where I got this. And I was like, oh, Violet Voss. It's a really well-known brand, very expensive brand. And so I was like, this is my chance to try a Violet Voss palette without spending, I think this was still like 25 or 30 bucks. It was still pretty expensive. And it's because of the shades. Like, again, I think this is probably a palette someone who uses makeup as like a regular person would love. This black is black, black, black. I do kind of want to try the black now that I'm looking at it. And there are some fun shimmers that I think look like they have a kind of fun finish, but I've just never felt the urge to use this palette. I probably wouldn't buy it again, knowing that I probably paid too much for it. And that's where I think I come down on this is it's 8 shades. I'm sure it's pretty, but is it worth it? Probably not. Not when I know that we've got some of these like Beauty Bay, the Kimchi Chic, the Bomo Beauty. Some of these indie brands are coming up with products that compete or do better and cost less.
Step it up, Violet.
All right, the next of our flops, our Neighs, is another Morphe palette. It's this one. It's the 35XO Natural Flirt palette. And here's the thing. This one I think was doomed from the get-go because I didn't even pick this palette. We went to Ulta one day and my straight roommate, I was like, let's do a fun challenge. I was streaming on a little platform called Airtime, and so one of the content that I was doing really well on there was challenge content. So it's like, let's do a challenge where you pick a palette for me and I have to put together a look with that palette. I gave him no other instruction, no other direction. I didn't say pick a palette you think I'm gonna like. I didn't say pick a palette you think is something I would normally go for. I literally just said, you pick a palette, and this is the one he picked. And if you know my roommate, his name is Jared, this makes a lot of sense. It's very, very pink. It's a very pink neutral palette. And it's fine. I did a look with, I don't remember what the look was like. It was fine. Like I said, Morphe shadows are fine. I don't think they're particularly good or particularly bad. But this is another one of those palettes where there are so many shades that are so similar This whole top row feels like it's just barely changing the tones of the colors. And I just feel like I'm never going to use all of these shades ever. Now, I saved this particular set of palettes for last for a couple reasons. Mostly because I think this is going to be the most controversial one. And again, I want to point out that I don't think this is a read against the brand. I like the brand. I just don't really use these palettes. So before any of you start blowing me up in the comments, let me just reiterate. I do not hate this brand. I don't even hate these palettes. I just don't use them. Don't come for me. But it's Sugar Pill. It's these like little Sugar Pill palettes. I think I bought all these at the same time. These are the capsule collection palettes. So there's like a 1, a 2, a 3, and then I think the black one or the gold one is like an anniversary one, I believe. Yeah, the 10th anniversary one. And they're all really pretty. I think this black one was my favorite. So if you open it up, it's got a lot of really cute shades. The big pan is supposed to be a blush. You could use it as an eyeshadow too, though, if you wanted. And they're really cute. I like these really dark blue colors. I think are cute. And again, nothing against them. I really like Sugar Pill products. This one I probably would use the least just because it's very much more kind of a pastel light. And I don't do a lot of like light blown out colors like that. I just don't feel like I could pull this palette out and get a full look out of just these shades. You know what I mean? It just feels like, yeah, it just feels disjointed to me. So I think I've used the black one and the gold one before. I don't think I've used the pink and the orange one ever. So maybe I need to just push myself. Maybe that's the lesson from this video, is that there's no such thing as a flop in my drawer.
I'm sorry, what?
That didn't come out the way I wanted it to. There's no such thing as like a flop eyeshadow palette for me. It's more so what I am and am not likely to use. And that, I think, is a good lesson for you too. I think there are a lot of folks, the makeup industry really makes you think that you need to buy every single palette that comes out, that every new product has to be in your collection. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Buy the things that you're going to use. Maybe buy things from brands that you support or that you're really excited about. But don't feel like you need to. I haven't bought a palette for, it probably has been 6 months since I've even bought a palette. So unless you're someone, again, who uses makeup all the time and you're burning through products really, really fast, don't let the industry make you think that you need to buy. What you have is probably good enough. There are also a lot of really great products that aren't palettes. So I've got a lot of like loose pigments, liquid glitter shadows. Maybe that will be our next video. I only looked at like powder, pigment, pressed powder palettes now, but there are a lot of other types of eye products now that aren't necessarily like your conventional traditional shadow that I think are just as good, if not better. So maybe we'll talk about those next time. Let me know in the comments if that's what you want to talk about. So that's it. We got our tops, we got our Neighs, we got our flop. Nope. Let me try that again.
What am I calling this?
We have our Sleighs, our top 3. We have the Bomo Beauty, we have the Beauty Bay, and we have the Juvia's Place, and then we have our flops, our Neighs, which are of course our Sugar Pill, that one Morphe palette, and then the, not me forgetting, oh, the Violet Voss one. All right, y'all. That's it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed this little walk through my eyeshadow collection. Let me know what you want to see next. Do we want to see some of those like liquid shadow products? Do we want to see lipsticks? I don't have a ton of like foundations and stuff, but we could do that if you want to. Let me know, what do you want to see next? I'm going to go wash all of this black eyeshadow off of me because I am a mess. Thank you again to my Carriolas for letting me know this is the kind of video they were looking for. I hope you all enjoyed it. And again, make sure to check out the link in my description if you're interested in joining the community. I would love to have you. You can join for either $5 or $10 a month, and I get a much better cut of that money than if you were to subscribe someplace like Twitch, for example. So would love to have you join the community and weigh in on what you want to see next. And again, remember, you can have this video 24 hours before everybody else does. So join us in the future. Woo! I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe. I love you all. Bye. Bye, Goose.